Right. Let's get one thing straight. I'm not normally the kind of guy who goes looking for a fight. Live and let live, that's my motto. Or it was, until Karen from the HOA decided my attempt to, save some actual human lives was a direct violation of Section 7, subparagraph D, of the Sunny Meadows Homeowners Association Charter, the one about non-sanctioned community gatherings exceeding potable refreshment distribution. Potable refreshment distribution. We're talking juice boxes and cookies, people, for heroes who've just donated blood. But Karen, with her visor clamped on so tight it permanently etched surprise lines onto her forehead, and her miniature poodle, Precious, yapping at her ankles like a furry little rage toad, Karen saw not lifesavers, but bylaw breakers. It was Saturday morning. The glorious, sun-drenched Saturday I'd earmarked for the third attempt at the Sunny Meadows Community Blood Drive. Karen was already out, of course. She patrolled our cul-de-sac like a tiny perm-haired warden, armed with a pair of surprisingly powerful binoculars and what I swear was a portable anemometer, probably to measure unapproved Zephyr speeds. She'd successfully torpedoed my first two attempts. The first, a cheerful setup in the common park area, was kiboshed by an official-looking letter she'd clearly typed up herself on HOA letterhead she'd probably also designed, citing potential turf compaction and unauthorized signage larger than a standard dinner plate. My flyers, featuring little smiling blood drops, were apparently an affront to the aesthetic integrity of her prize-winning petunias. My second attempt, the Spite Tent Special, as I'd dubbed it with Gary from Gary's Mobile Tents and Party Supplies, a man who understood the unique challenges of HOA warfare, was even more ingeniously placed. It was technically on the sliver of public access curb bordering my own property, a masterpiece of passive-aggressive positioning. Gary, a true artist in his field, had even used extra sandbags, quipping, "For when she tries to accidentally hit it with her sprinkler system, kid." Karen hadn't resorted to aquatic assault. Instead, she'd produced a dog-eared copy of the city planning code she apparently slept with, and triumphantly pointed out to a bewildered code enforcement officer, whom she'd naturally summoned, that my tent's canopy extended 3.7 inches into the city's easement setback. The glare from its vinyl roof, she'd wailed, was causing undue emotional distress to Mr. Henderson's prize-winning begonias. Mr. Henderson, bless his heart, later told me his begonias were plastic. So there she was, Queen Karen on her Saturday morning patrol, practically vibrating with the smug satisfaction of a cat who's not only eaten the canary, but also shredded the cage lining and redecorated with the feathers. She saw me standing by the curb, phone to my ear, and a slow, poisonous smile spread across her face. "Good morning, Michael," she called out, her voice dripping with saccharine venom, loud enough for Mrs. Henderson's plastic begonias to hear. "Giving up on your little public health experiment today? Wise decision. The petunias were looking quite stressed yesterday, All that unauthorized proximity." Precious yapped in agreement from the crook of her arm. I took a slow, deliberate sip of the coffee I'd strategically brought out. I even offered her a polite nod. "Not at all, Karen," I said, my voice calm, a little too cheerful for her liking, I could tell. "Just had to upgrade the facilities, make things a bit more comfortable for our donors." I paused, letting the anticipation hang in the air like the cheap air freshener in her Toyota. "In fact, I think my VIP ride is just arriving now. You might want to shield your eyes. It's pretty impressive." Karen's smile faltered, a tiny crack appearing in the porcelain certainty of her face. "VIP ride?" she sniffed. "Michael, don't tell me you've hired one of those dreadful party buses. They're explicitly forbidden by Resolution 11B concerning vehicular noise and moral decay." "Oh, it's a bus, Karen," I said, my grin widening. "But I don't think party is the first word that'll spring to mind." And right on cue, the distant rumble I'd been listening for grew louder. A deep, throaty growl that promised something substantial. It wasn't just a vehicle, it was an event. It all started so innocently. Weeks ago, I'm sitting in my slightly cluttered garage, the summer air thick and lazy, scrolling through local news on my phone. "Blood shortages hit regional hospitals," the headline screams. Man, that hits close to home. I remember last year when my Aunt Carol needed those emergency transfusions after her surgery. Scared the hell out of all of us. The doctors said it was touch and go for a while, purely because they were running low on her type. "You know what?" I say out loud to my collection of mismatched tools and half-finished DIY projects. "I could do something about this. A community blood drive, right here in Sunny Meadows." I'm picturing it. Friendly faces, kids handing out juice and cookies, a real neighborhood bonding thing. We live in a place called Sunny Meadows, for crying out loud. What could possibly go wrong? Famous last words, Mike. Absolutely famous. Last. Words. I make a few calls, get the local blood bank on board. They're thrilled, of course. We pick a Saturday, pencil in the Common Park area. It's got shade, a bit of space. Easy peasy. I even designed some cheerful flyers on my computer. "Be a hero! Donate blood!" With these little smiling blood drop characters I thought were pretty clever. Cute, right? Apparently, to Karen, they were harbingers of aesthetic doom. I'm pinning one of these flyers to the community notice board by the pool, feeling pretty good about myself when the first chill wind of the coming storm blows in. "Michael, is that your creation?" The voice is sharp enough to curdle milk, with an undertone that suggests she's just smelled something unpleasant. Like a dog turd on her AstroTurf welcome mat, it's Karen. Early 60s, maybe late 50s if she's had a hard life. Which, given how much effort she puts into making everyone else's life hard, is a distinct possibility. She's got that blonde helmet hair that looks like it could deflect small arms fire. A visor clamped on so tight it's probably restricting blood flow to her brain, which would explain a lot. And she's clutching that miniature poodle, Precious. Precious always looks like she's one yelp away from a complete nervous breakdown. Can't blame her. "Oh, hi, Karen," I say, trying for breezy and unconcerned. It's a performance. We all perform around Karen. Just putting up a flyer for the blood drive I'm organizing for Saturday. For the community, you know? Her eyes, the color of diluted disapproval, narrow at the smiling blood drop. "A blood drive?" she repeats, like I've just suggested hosting a mud wrestling tournament. "In our common area, Michael, have you consulted the HOA bylaws, Section 14, subsection C, paragraph 2, regarding non-sanctioned community gatherings exceeding potable refreshment distribution?" I blink. It's mainly juice and cookies for after, Karen. And, you know, the actual process of saving lives with donated blood?" I try a winning smile. It bounces off her like a Nerf dart off a tank. "Lives are important, Michael," she concedes, as if this is a point she's generously willing to consider. "So are rules, and the aesthetic integrity of our petunia beds. They are prize-winning, you know? 3rd place in the Tri-County Suburban Beautification Contest. 3 years running." She puffs up slightly. "I'll need to see your official HOA 7B event application form, in triplicate, and a detailed environmental impact study regarding the aforementioned petunias." My internal monologue is already screaming. HOA 7B? Is that next to the form for regulating the migratory patterns of local squirrels? Environmental impact for petunias that, by the way, look suspiciously like they're made of silk? "Right," I say, my smile feeling a bit strained. "I'll get right on that, Karen." "See that you do, Michael," she says, giving one last suspicious glare at my flyer. "We can't have just anyone organizing—" Fluid extractions on communal property. It sets a precedent. Precious yaps sharply, as if to punctuate the dire warning. Then, Karen pivots with military precision and marches off, presumably to cross-reference my flyer with the official HOA font and color palette regulations. And that's how it began. My descent into the bureaucratic hell that is Karen's interpretation of the Sunny Meadows Homeowners Association Charter. The next day, my inbox is flooded. Not with RSVPs for the blood drive, oh no. It's a series of PDFs from Karen, each one a different section of the HOA bylaws, helpfully highlighted in fluorescent yellow wherever a rule could, with a bit of imaginative contortion, be applied to a blood drive. There are rules about noise levels. Apparently, the gentle hum of a blood agitation machine could be an issue. Rules about temporary structures. Our modest pop-up tents are suddenly unpermitted architectural installations. And, my personal favorite, a rule about olfactory disturbances. I'm still not sure what she thought a blood drive would smell like, but she was clearly concerned. I actually try. God help me, I try. I spend an evening with a bottle of cheap wine and that HOA 7B form. It's a masterpiece of obfuscation. It asks for things like projected decibel levels of donor exaltation, post-cookie consumption, and comprehensive waste management plan for discarded adhesive bandage backings. I'm half tempted to write in, donors will be instructed to contain their joy to a low hum, and bandage backings will be launched into the sun via a small, eco-friendly catapult I plan to build in my garage. I call Gary, the one spineless but generally harmless guy on the HOA board. He's the treasurer, which means he mostly just signs checks and tries to stay off Karen's radar. Gary, it's Mike, about this blood drive. I can practically hear him wince through the phone. Karen's saying I need a permit for ambient community goodwill and a certified phlebotomy runoff containment strategy. Is that a real thing, Gary? A long, weary sigh travels down the line. It's the sound of a man who's seen too many battles lost before they even began. Mike, you know Karen. She takes her role as chairperson of the Architectural Review and Community Harmony Committee very seriously. She's already lodged a preliminary objection with the full board based on potential turf compaction due to increased foot traffic from altruistic individuals and unauthorized signage larger than a standard dinner plate, potentially distracting migratory birds. Migratory birds? I splutter. Gary, it's a blood drive for the local hospital. People need this. I know, Gary says, his voice placating. And we all appreciate your civic-mindedness, Mike. Truly. But Karen's got the bylaws memorized. She quoted Section 19, Subarticle Q, about the emotional distress unauthorized gatherings can cause to, and I quote, sensitive lawn ornaments. My hands are tied. The board can't approve it without her committee's green light. Maybe try for a smaller sign? And perhaps assure her all donors will wear soft-soled shoes. I hang up, feeling a surge of frustration so potent it could probably power a small generator. Community Harmony Committee? I mutter to my empty kitchen. She's the primary disruptor of harmony in a 5-mile radius. This isn't about rules. This is a Karen on a serious, unadulterated power trip. This isn't going to be as easy as I thought. Not by a long shot. This means war. A very polite, suburban, heavily regulated war. But I'm not a quitter, especially when I know I'm in the right. And especially when I picture Karen's smug face telling me no. So, Operation Appease the Beast commences. I meet with Maria, the blood bank coordinator, in the common park area a few days before the planned drive. Maria is a saint. She's seen her share of logistical nightmares, but even she looks a bit bewildered by the sheer Karen-ness of our situation. "So, let me get this straight, Mike," she says, tapping her pen against her clipboard. "We're standing by the sad, deflated patch of grass where my dreams of a cheerful blood drive are rapidly dying." She objected to the color of the proposed donation chairs, said they weren't in the approved HOA earth tone palette as outlined in Appendix G, Chart 3. "Yup," I confirm, trying not to grind my teeth. "And the cookie selection. Apparently, oatmeal raisin is too controversial for a sensitive community event." She suggested plain digestive biscuits. For heroes who've just given a pint of their life force, digestive biscuits. Maria just shakes her head, a small smile playing on her lips. "And the limitation on excessive donor groaning or sighing?" "That, too, falls under auditory pollution, apparently." Karen is watching us from her porch, naturally. Arms crossed, sunglasses on despite the overcast sky, occasionally taking photos with her phone. She looks like a CIA operative on a stakeout, if the CIA's primary concern was the unauthorized deployment of folding tables. I can feel her disapproval radiating across the lawn, wilting the already stressed petunias. My internal monologue is having a field day. This woman finds problems like a truffle pig finds truffles, except her truffles are pure, unadulterated misery and petty tyranny. She probably has a special section in the bylaws for the correct alignment of blades of grass. This isn't even my first Karen rodeo, you know. I confess this to Maria, partly to vent, partly so she understands the level of irrationality we're dealing with. "Last year," I tell her, lowering my voice conspiratorially, "she tried to get my 7-year-old daughter's lemonade stand shut down. Claimed it was an unlicensed commercial beverage enterprise operating in a residential zone. My kid was selling lukewarm lemonade for 50 cents a cup, trying to save up for a hamster. Karen actually came over with a little plastic measuring cup and claimed the lemon-to-sugar ratio wasn't up to community standards of palatability. Who does that?" Maria just stares at me, eyes wide. "Wow," she finally says. "Okay, so digestive biscuits it is then?" "Not if I can help it," I mutter. The day of the first attempted blood drive arrives. It's a beautiful Saturday. The sun is shining, birds are chirping. A few hopeful donors, alerted by my toned-down Karen-approved-ish signage, which is roughly the size of a postcard and printed in HOA beige, are milling about. Maria and her team are trying to look optimistic, setting up their earth-toned chairs and discreetly hiding the oatmeal raisin cookies. Then Karen makes her move. She doesn't just walk over, she marches, phone already pressed to her ear, Precious trotting frantically to keep up. "Yes, officer," she declares, her voice carrying across the tranquil green like a siren. "There's an unauthorized medical procedure event happening in our designated quiet enjoyment zone. They have needles. And they're attracting strangers from outside the immediate 5-household radius. It's a clear breach of the Familiar Faces Initiative." 2 police officers arrive, predictably. Officer Miller, mid-50s, with a mustache that's seen more suburban drama than a daytime soap opera, looks like he's already regretting getting out of bed. Officer Rodriguez, younger, sharper, looks like she's trying very hard not to laugh. "Ma'am," Officer Miller says, his voice flat, "you called about a blood drive?" "It's a flagrant violation, officer," Karen insists, jabbing a finger towards our modest setup. "They have no reclining donor comfort variance permit, as required by Section 23. And look at that cooler they're using for the juice. It's clearly not bear-proofed according to County Ordinance 34/9 subsection B. What if a bear wanders in, attracted by the scent of high-fructose corn syrup?" I step forward, trying to project an aura of calm reasonableness I'm far from feeling. "Officers, I'm Mike Jenkins. I organized this. We have all the necessary permissions from the city and the blood bank. This is a community service event. I hand over our sheaf of official-looking documents. Officer Rodriguez takes them, glances through, then looks at Karen, biting her lip. Ma'am, with all due respect, I don't think bears are a major concern for juice boxes in suburban Sunny Meadows, and these permits seem to be in order. But this is private HOA property, Karen practically screeches, her face turning an alarming shade of magenta that clashes spectacularly with her peach-colored visor. And I, as the duly elected representative of the Sunny Meadows Homeowners Association, Architectural Review, and Community Harmony Committee, am revoking their permission to be here. They are trespassing, and their folding chairs are definitely not from the approved vendor list. Officer Miller sighs, a sound that speaks volumes of existential weariness. He turns to me. "Look, son," he says, not unkindly, but with an air of finality. "Your town permits are fine for the activity itself. But this is private HOA property. If she, representing the HOA, is telling you you don't have permission to be on their grass, then technically, you gotta move. Public street's another matter, but here, our hands are tied. Unless you want to get into a civil dispute, which, trust me, you don't." The donors look crestfallen. Maria looks like she's about to commit a non-earth-toned act of violence. I feel a hot wave of fury and frustration wash over me. Unbelievable. She weaponized the cops against life-saving. This isn't just a power trip anymore. This is a declaration of war. "Fine," I say, my voice tight. "We'll pack up for today." I give Karen a look that I hope conveys the full depth of my burgeoning animosity. She just smiles, a thin, triumphant little smirk. My internal monologue is practically spitting nails. Bear-proof coolers? Familiar faces initiative? Is she actually for real? This isn't just about rules. This is about her needing to control every blade of grass, every cookie, every damn breath taken in her little kingdom. "Okay, Karen, you want to fight? You've got one." Defeated for the moment, but far from vanquished, I retreat to my driveway, staring at the public street that borders our HOA property line. The asphalt seems to mock me with its neutrality. She controls the grass, I think, a new, slightly unhinged plan starting to form. But she doesn't control the asphalt. Does she? This leads to the Spite Tent Special. I call Gary's Mobile Tents and Party Supplies. This Gary, thankfully, is a different breed from the HOA's Gary. This Gary sounds like he chain smokes gravel and eats nails for breakfast, but he also sounds like he gets things done. "Gary," I say into the phone, trying to keep the desperation out of my voice. "It's Mike Jenkins. I need a small tent, some tables and chairs. But here's the catch. It has to be set up right on the absolute bleeding edge of my property line. Like millimeters from the HOA common area, but technically on public access if the curb allows. And it needs to be sturdy enough to withstand the gale force stink eye of a pathologically furious HOA president who may or may not own a voodoo doll in my likeness." A deep chuckle rumbles from the other end, a sound like rocks in an industrial tumble dryer. "Got a live one, eh, Mike? HOA trouble?" "Say no more. I've seen it all, kid. You want the passive-aggressive pavilion? Or maybe the boundary dispute deluxe? Comes with extra sandbags for when she tries to accidentally hit it with her industrial-grade sprinkler system, the one she claims is for optimal fescue hydration, but everyone knows is for soaking teenagers who skateboard too close to her prize-winning azaleas. You're a lifesaver, Gary, I say, a genuine smile finally breaking through my frustration. This man understands. Nah, kid, Gary rumbles. You're the one trying to be the lifesaver. I just provide the canvas for your Creative community engagement. Gary, true to his word, arrives the next morning, the Saturday that was supposed to be attempt number 2. He and his laconic assistant set up the tent with the precision of a special ops team. It's a thing of beauty, a tiny outpost of rebellion perched defiantly on the very precipice of Karen's domain. It's technically legal. I checked, triple-checked. Karen is out instantly, of course. She must have motion sensors trained on my property line. She's armed with a bright yellow tape measure, a spirit level, and a copy of the city planning code so worn it looks like one of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Precious is yapping at her heels, sensing blood in the water, or perhaps just residual lawn fertilizer. She measures, she squints, she consults her ancient texts. For a moment, I think I might have actually stumped her. Then her eyes light up with the gleam of a zealot who's just found a new heretic to burn. "Aha!" she exclaims, stabbing a manicured finger at the tent's unassuming vinyl roof. "That canopy. It extends precisely 3.7 inches into the city's designated utility easement setback. A clear violation of Municipal Code 113.8, subsection F, paragraph 3. And the glare. The glare from its suboptimal vinyl surface is causing undue emotional distress and potential photosynthesis disruption to Mr. Henderson's prize-winning begonias across the street." She whips out her phone. "I'm calling code enforcement and the Begonia Anti-Defamation League." The code enforcement officer, a tired-looking woman named Brenda, who I suspect has Karen on speed dial under existential threat level orange, arrives an hour later. She looks at the tent. She looks at Karen. She looks at me. She looks like she wants to retire to a small, uninhabited island. "Mr. Jenkins," she says, sighing. "Technically. And I mean, by the width of a gnat's eyebrow, technically. That bit of the roof is over the easement line by a couple of inches. I gotta write it up. You'll have to take it down." Karen is practically preening. She actually does a little shimmy of triumph. Precious, caught up in the moment, attempts a celebratory pirouette and nearly face plants. And that's when I see it. That smug, "I told you so, I am the ruler of all things" beige and orderly look on Karen's face. And something inside me just snaps. Not in a loud way. In a quiet, intensely focused, I am about to unleash a level of petty but entirely legal retribution this suburb has never seen kind of way. My internal monologue is surprisingly calm. "Okay, Mike, new plan. And this one? This one's gonna be beautiful. If I can't bring the donors to the blood drive area, then by God, I'll bring the blood drive area to the donors." And Karen is going to need to consult a cardiologist after this. Which brings us back to this glorious Saturday morning. The sun shining, Karen gloating, and me, phone to my ear, watching the street with an expectant grin. The rumble turns into a roar, and then it turns the corner. It's not just a bus. It's the Lifesaver Cruiser, 40 feet, of gleaming red and white, diesel-powered phlebotomy on wheels. It's emblazoned with "Donate Blood, Save Lives," in letters so big they could probably be seen from the International Space Station. It's like a parade float of medical efficiency and pure, unadulterated street-legal spite. The driver, a woman with wraparound sunglasses who looks like she could wrestle a bear and then draw its blood, expertly maneuvers this behemoth into the specially permitted temporary community health initiative zone. I'd spent 3 days wrangling out of a bewildered city councilman. Turns out, Councilman Davies's kid, whom I'd coached in Little League, really remembered that time I taught him how to hit a curveball. And the story of the emotionally distressed begonias apparently sealed the deal. The bus parks with a satisfying hiss of air brakes. Psst! Directly across the street from Karen's meticulously manicured lawn, its sheer bulk momentarily eclipsing the sun from her prize winning, and still suspiciously plastic-looking petunias. Karen's jaw doesn't just drop. It unhinges. It performs a complex gymnastic routine of disbelief, horror, and dawning outrage. Her expensive binoculars clatter to the pavement. Precious, the poodle, lets out a yelp so high-pitched only bats and other poodles can hear it, then dives for cover under Karen's floral print skirt. Karen's face cycles through a fascinating spectrum of colors, from its usual smug beige to a startled white, then a blotchy pink, rapidly deepening to a furious puce, and finally settling on a shade of incandescent purple I genuinely didn't know human skin could achieve outside of a Willy Wonka factory accident. The side of the lifesaver cruiser deploys with a smooth hydraulic hum, revealing a surprisingly spacious and inviting interior, complete with comfortable-looking donation chairs, presumably in non-HOA earth tones, and smiling medical staff. A friendly phlebotomist in crisp blue scrubs leans out from the doorway, a cheerful wave at the ready. "Blood donation station now open," she calls out, her voice bright and clear. "Step right up, heroes. First 10 donors get a free I'm a lifesaver." T-shirt and a cookie that is definitely not a plain digestive biscuit. She winks in my direction. Maria had briefed her. My internal monologue is doing a victory lap, complete with fireworks and a marching band. Check, mate, and every other chess piece on the board. Karen, every single goddamn one. For a solid 10 seconds, Karen is speechless. It's a historic moment. I consider having a plaque made. Then, the dam of her indignation bursts. "Michael!" she shrieks, her voice cracking like an ancient glacier. She stumbles forward, nearly tripping over the discarded binoculars. Precious, emboldened by her owner's fury, or perhaps just disoriented, starts yapping uncontrollably. "What is the meaning of this monstrosity? This is a residential area. It's an eyesore. It's blocking the chi. The harmonious flow of neighborhood chi is being catastrophically disrupted by this vulgar, crimson behemoth." I take another leisurely sip of my coffee, which suddenly tastes like the nectar of the gods. "Actually, Karen," I say, my voice a perfect model of calm, polite reasonableness. "It's a fully licensed, city-permitted mobile medical unit parked entirely legally on a public thoroughfare. Amazing, isn't it? All the life-saving convenience, none of the HOA turf compaction, or begonia-related emotional distress." "I'm calling the police," she screeches, fumbling for her phone, nearly dropping Precious in the process. "Again, and the mayor, and the governor, and the National Historic Preservation Society. This abomination is undoubtedly damaging the historic curb appeal of our post-war suburban enclave." Sure enough, a few minutes later, Officers Miller and Rodriguez pull up, again. Miller looks like he's aged 10 years since our last encounter an hour ago. Rodriguez, bless her soul, is visibly trying to turn a full-blown laugh into a discreet series of coughs, her shoulders shaking. "Ma'am." "Mr. Jenkins," Officer Miller begins, pinching the bridge of his nose so hard I'm worried it might snap off. "We meet again. Is there an issue with this very large, very official-looking, and I must say impressively clean vehicle?" "It's a menace, officer!" Karen wails, gesturing wildly at the lifesaver cruiser, which is now beginning to welcome its first smiling donors. It's generator. It's emitting subsonic frequencies. It's disrupting the Earth's magnetic field. My commemorative Elvis Presley decorative plates are rattling in their display cabinet. Look!" She dramatically produces a small, cheap compass from her pocket, which is, in fact, steadfastly pointing north. "It's spinning uncontrollably." Officer Rodriguez excuses herself, muttering something about needing to check the cruiser's tire pressure. I see her lean against their patrol car, head in her hands, shoulders still shaking. Officer Miller looks at Karen. He looks at the bus. He looks at the growing line of cheerful, T-shirt-coveting donors. He looks at me, and for a fleeting second, I see a glimmer of something that might be amusement, or perhaps just profound sympathy for my earlier plight. "Ma'am," he says, his voice heavy with the weariness of 1,000 Karens. "It's a legally parked, licensed medical unit. It has all the necessary city permits, which Mr. Jenkins has already provided. They are collecting blood for the hospital. Unless that bus starts doing donuts, selling unlicensed artisanal pickles, or, in fact, causes verifiable damage to the Earth's magnetic field that can be corroborated by an independent geophysicist, there's really nothing we can do." He pauses. "And frankly, the only thing currently disturbing the peace is, well, you get the picture." Karen sputters. She actually sputters like a cartoon character. Words fail her. For the second time in less than an hour. It's a banner day for Sunny Meadows. She glares at the bus, then at me, then back at the bus, her face a mask of impotent fury. Then, with a strangled shriek that startles a passing squirrel, she scoops up Precious and storms back into her house, the screen door slamming behind her with enough force to rattle every wind chime on the block. And just like that, the reign of terror is, well, not over, but certainly on a temporary medically induced hiatus. The rest of the day is frankly glorious. Neighbors I haven't spoken to in years come out, not just to donate, but to shake my hand, to share a laugh, to bask in the reflected glow of Karen's epic defeat. Dave from across the street gives me a triumphant high five. "Mike, you absolute legend!" he booms, his voice full of admiration. "When I heard what Karen pulled with your first setup, I was livid. My wife, Sarah, she was supposed to donate then, but this is poetry. Pure, unadulterated 40-foot-long vehicular poetry. Sarah's in there right now giving her pint. Said it's the most satisfying blood donation she's ever made. Feels like she's sticking it to the man. Or, you know, the Karen." Even Mr. Henderson, owner of the allegedly distressed and still suspiciously plastic begonias, shuffles over. "Good on ya, son," he wheezes, giving me a thumbs up. "That woman once tried to cite me for the non-period appropriate color of my garden gnome's fishing rod. Said it was garishly anachronistic. Keep fighting the good fight." The local news van, tipped off by someone, I suspect Maria, or perhaps a gleefully rebellious Gary from the HOA board who'd heard the rumbles of revolution, pulls up around lunchtime. A young, eager reporter hops out, microphone in hand, clearly thrilled by the human interest/suburban drama angle. "We're live in Sunny Meadows," she chirps into the camera, "where one man's determination to hold a community blood drive led to an extraordinary and very large solution to some rather unique local challenges." Karen, who had apparently been monitoring the situation from behind her lace curtains, sees the camera and recoils as if it were spraying acid. She practically dives away from the window. The last I see is the twitching of a curtain and the indignant yapping of Precious, presumably equally camera-shy. My internal monologue is singing opera. The turnout is fantastic. People are laughing, actually harmonizing as a community, united by a common cause and a common unspoken amusement at the expense of our local bylaw enforcer. And Karen? She's currently communing with the aphids and plotting her revenge, no doubt. But for today, this is better than I ever could have imagined. The cookies, by the way, are oatmeal raisin, and they are delicious. Late that afternoon, as the sun begins to dip, the Lifesaver cruiser prepares to depart. It's been an incredible success. Maria tells me they've collected nearly double their projected donations for a neighborhood drive. She gives me a hug that feels genuinely grateful, with just a hint of awe. "Mike," she says, shaking her head and laughing, "you are a force of nature, and if I'm being honest, slightly terrifying in your dedication. We haven't seen a community rally like this in years. You've restored my faith in humanity, and the power of truly epic spite, used for good, of course." "Just doing my part, Maria," I say, though I can't quite keep the grin off my face. Sometimes doing a good deed requires a more theatrical flair, and a very large vehicle. As the bus rumbles to life and pulls away from the curb, there's a spontaneous smattering of applause from the neighbors who are still out, chatting and enjoying the Karen-free air. It's a sweet sound. A few days later, life in Sunny Meadows has mostly returned to its usual quiet rhythm. Mostly. I'm out mowing my lawn, a task Karen usually supervises from her porch, occasionally shouting critiques about my edging technique. And she's also out, tending her precious petunias with a grim, silent determination. She catches my eye. There's a flicker of something in her gaze, grudging respect, pure, unadulterated, simmering hatred, probably the latter, but she says nothing. She just aggressively deadheads a rose, snipping its head off with a vicious little thwack. Message received, Karen. Things are quieter now, though. The HOA meetings, I hear from Gary, who now greets me with a conspiratorial wink, are apparently less about bylaw minutiae and more about effective conflict resolution strategies and fostering positive community dialogue. The legend of the Bloodmobile Showdown, as Dave has affectionately named it, is already firmly entrenched in neighborhood lore. Kids on the street have started asking their parents if the giant red bus will come back for Halloween and give out candy. And me? Well, I got a very nice thank you card signed by pretty much everyone at the local hospital's transfusion unit. And, to my utter astonishment, a letter from the City Council commending my innovative and proactive approach to community health initiatives. I'm thinking of framing that one, right next to a picture of the Lifesaver Cruiser. But the best part? The quiet satisfaction of knowing that sometimes, when you're faced with an immovable wall of no, all you really need is a bigger, better, entirely street-legal yes on 40-foot wheels. It's about not backing down when you know you're doing something good, even if you have to get a little creative. And sometimes, just sometimes, the best way to deal with a Karen is to go spectacularly, hilariously, and legally overboard. I'm already thinking about next year's community project. Maybe a free mobile pet spaying and neutering clinic right outside her house. Just for the harmonious flow of neighborhood chai, of course. Wonder what Karen and Precious will have to say about that.